Hello, my name is Arlette Spencer. Welcome to Inspiring Seniors. Today I'm talking to a man of many talents, Doug Heine. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you.
Could you tell us about the start of your life?
Certainly. I was born on the farm just across the border into Saskatchewan.
Yes.
That was a few years ago. I was actually delivered by my grandmother.
Oh. And you'd mentioned that this was at Hatton where you first
Yes,
lived.
it was at Hatton, Saskatchewan, right?
Yeah. Tell me about your early life there on the farm.
Well, actually, my parents farmed about 10 miles south of there, also near Hatton, on the other side of Hatton. And we lived there, and I went to grades 1 and 2 in a small country school at Red Lake School.
Okay.
And after that, our family moved to Beausejour, Manitoba,
Right.
to help my grandparents on a dairy farm there. And I went to school there for 2 years, or 3 years actually. Then our family moved to Medicine Hat, and I finished my school at Montreal Street School, and then also at Alexandra High School, as it was in those days.
Okay. Just to go back to your move to Manitoba, what was it that prompted that move?
Well, it was during the war, and 2 of my uncles who were assisting on the farm were in the Army, and they needed some assistance, so our family moved there to assist until after the war, when one of the sons came back. So.
Okay. And what kind of a farm was this?
It was a dairy farm, and
Right.
we milked 65 cows twice a day.
Yeah.
And I was involved in some of that.
Yeah. So as you were growing up there, did you have any inkling of what you wanted to do in your later life?
Not at that stage.
Okay.
Later on in high school, I had a pretty good idea what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, maybe some of your activities when you were in high school were related to that. I know you mentioned a few things that you did when you were in school.
Yes. Well, certainly I was very involved in sports in the school. I was involved in just about all the sports at the school. I played volleyball, basketball, football.
Yeah.
Also, during that time, I delivered newspapers for the Medicine Hat News. I did that for, 5 years. As well as that, I delivered groceries for a store in the neighborhood that delivered them on bicycle.
Right. That was an interesting way to do it. Yes. And then you also joined the Air Cadets.
Yes, I was in the Air Cadets during my high school time as well.
Yeah. Was there anything that prompted you to become an Air Cadet?
I was always interested in flying.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And later on, I earned a pilot's license and did some flying.
Oh, good for you. Yeah. So following high school, you got a job.
Yes, I right out of high school, I got a job at the Defense at Suffield in the meteorological department.
And how did you learn to do that?
On the job training, basically.
Yeah.
I was plotting weather maps in the early mornings. In those days, it was all done manually.
Yes.
The information came in on a teletype, and we took that information and plotted it on a map, and then the meteorologist would draw in the isobars and make his forecast from that. So.
Okay. And so what was this used for?
Well, a lot of the trials and things out at Suffield was based on, on the weather.
Yes.
So most of the information that was gathered there was used out in, for the field trials and that sort of thing. Often I was out in the field as well, doing meteorological readings.
Yes. Could you describe some of those?
Well, basically what we were interested in was the wind directions and speeds and relative humidity and those kinds of things which affected some of the trials that were being run.
And I understand this wasn't only used just on the base.
No, also that's one of the reporting stations for all across Canada and beyond.
Yeah, so it's quite far-reaching.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, yes. Now, I understand that you were there for 3 years, and during that time you had an important personal event.
Got married during that time to my wife Shirley.
During that time also you took a 7-month leave of absence. So what did that involve?
Right. Well, after school in that fall I joined the South Alberta Regiment and that was in 1953 I joined there.
Okay.
And in late 54 the SAR was amalgamated with a number of other units and became the South Alberta Light Horse. And I was sent to Borden for officer training, and I was there for 7 months during that time. Fortunately, I was able to get a leave of absence from the time at Suffield, so that worked out well.
Oh, that's good. And Shirley went with you?
Yeah, she did.
And I understand she was working on the base too.
Correct. Yeah. She was in the steno pool there for a while, and then filled in as the base commander's secretary on occasions. So.
Now, in your work life, you came back to the Suffield Defense Board, and in your military role, you came back to the Southern Alberta Regiment, or the Light Horse.
Correct.
How did the two positions work together?
Well, quite well, because a lot of the things that were done on the base were military related. Most of the defense stuff was that they were working on had military connotations, and so it worked together very well.
Yes. Could you describe your experience then with the Southern Alberta Light Horse?
Well, as I say, I started as a private there, and I eventually got my commission and worked up through the ranks, and eventually I commanded the regiment for 4 years, 58 to 62.
Okay. And you had mentioned to me that after you came back from Ontario that you were the first officer to be trained in the armored tanks.
Yes, that's correct. Before the SAR was an infantry regiment, and so I was the first one that was actually trained as an armored officer. So.
Wow. So in the fall of 1956, you had a career change.
Correct. I left Suffield and went to the laboratory in Northwest Nitro Chemicals, which was just opening at that time.
Okay.
And I worked in the lab there for a couple of years. First I was in the main lab for about 6 months, and then I was in the laboratory in the ammonia production department there, which was shift work, which after 2 years became a bit much, and I decided that was not for me for the rest of my life. And at that point, I decided to go to university. So I left there and went to Edmonton to the University of Alberta.
Okay. So what did you take there?
I took a degree in chemistry with a minor in biochemistry. So.
And you not only took the degree, you went on a bit too, I
Yes,
think.
I did. I took some extra courses as well. So.
Yeah. So following this education, then what happened?
I went back to Suffield.
Okay. Never far away, eh?
No, no.
No. So what did you do there?
I was a technical officer there, working with Dr. Shaw at that time in the physiology department.
Okay. And you did some particular work.
Yes, we were. Dr. Shaw was involved in some work with regard to getting drugs and that thing through the blood-brain barrier.
Yes.
And it was very interesting work.
Well, it sounds quite complicated.
Well, yes, that was very interesting. Yeah, we did some animal studies and things like that. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, how many years did you spend on that?
I was there for another 7 years.
Okay. Yeah. So going back to your military career, when you left Suffield, you went back to the Southern Alberta Light Horse, and can you just relate what
Sure.
happened then?
Well, when I went to Edmonton, I transferred to the 19th Alberta Dragoons, which was another similar unit in Edmonton. And I served there during my time I was in Edmonton. And when I came back to Suffield, I transferred back to the South Alberta Light Horse.
I think that there was a connection with George Ross, who was also connected
Yes,
with
he
the
was
military.
the honorary lieutenant colonel
Yes.
of the regiment, and he owned a large ranch in the Many Berries area. Yeah.
So that connection had an impact on you.
Yes, it did, because he was having some health issues and was wanting some assistance. And so I became the manager of the Ross Ranches, which was quite a large ranch in southern Alberta. There were 3 different ranches involved, which totaled about 6.5 townships of land. So it was large, and we had about 6,500 head of cattle.
Right, yes. So that was quite a career change for
Yes, you bet. It was a big learning curve.
It's a good thing you had a bit of farming experience
Yes,
prior.
you bet.
Yes, yeah. So what were your duties there?
Mostly management related, but also did some work with the cattle. And one of the interesting things that were worked on at the time, in conjunction with the Many Berries research station that was there, that between the veterinarian there and George Ross, they were developing a new breed of cattle, which was very interesting. And unfortunately, it didn't quite come to fruition because they closed the research station 1 generation away from establishing that as a new breed. So
That's a shame.
that was a bit of a disappointment.
Right, yes. Now, George Ross was involved with the Canadian Cattlemen's Association.
Yes, he was. He was chairman and for a couple of years. And
So you did some things with him.
yes, I did. We traveled quite a bit across Western Canada, and we were involved in some cattle shows, and it was George Ross and I were judges for some of those cattle shows, which was rather interesting.
Yes. Now, unfortunately, George passed away
Yes.
in 1971, so what
Correct.
happened after that?
Well, after that, I got a position with the Medicine Hat Diagnostic Laboratory, and I was the manager there for 24 years.
Wow, yes. And so that sort of took you back to your chemistry and biochemistry experience.
Correct, yes.
Right,
Yeah.
yes. So following that, I believe you retired.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, 1995.
1995, correct.
Yeah, yeah. we're returning back to the Southern Alberta Light Horse because you continued on with them.
Well, I was the commanding officer from 68 to 72, and then I became the honorary lieutenant colonel in 86 to 89.
Okay. And what were your duties then?
Basically just to, well, assist the commanding officer in any way you could, and I attended several conferences, national conferences of other honoraries across the country, and met some very interesting people during that time.
Are you still with the Southern Alberta Light Horse?
Well, I'm with their regimental association, so I'm still got my hand in.
So a long career with them.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, yes. Now, you've contributed to the community in a number of other ways. You've been involved with several other clubs and organizations. Could you tell me about that?
So I was the area manager for St. John Ambulance for 25 years, and was also involved in the brigade, and was the area officer for Southern Alberta, everything south of Calgary. So there were divisions in Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, in the Crow's Nest Pass, and so.
And then you have been a member of the Kiwanis Club?
Yes. This is my, I think, 46th year that I've been with the Kiwanis Club.
That's a long time. Yeah. And as well, you've been involved with St. Barnabas Church.
Yes, I served there in various capacities for a number of years. I served on their vestry board, and was also a licensed lay reader for the Diocese of Calgary for 30 years.
A long time, yes. So could you tell me about your family?
Yes, as I mentioned, my wife Shirley, and we have a son and a daughter. Our daughter lives in Medicine Hat, and our son is in Edmonton. We have 5 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren.
Oh my. And through the years, you had some adventures.
Yes, we did a lot of traveling. My wife and I have been to all 7 continents of the world. We've had some very interesting trips. We've done a lot of cruises and lots of traveling by van and things. And when our children were small, we used to, my wife has been involved in music all her life, so we used to go to a music camp in the summer when we take the children and make a holiday of it, and that worked out very well.
Can you think of some highlights aside from that?
Well, one other thing I was involved in early on was when the United Way was started in Medicine Hat. I was involved at the time with getting that started and off the ground, and I worked with them for a number of years as well in various capacities.
Once you retired, how did you come to be involved with the Viner Center?
Well, I went down there for meals on occasion, and Sherry Tisnick grabbed me and got me involved in the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. And I spent 12 years with them, 2 different terms.
So that was a long service there as well.
Yes, you bet. And I served as chair of that for 3 years.
And I believe that you were instrumental in beginning the foundation there.
Yes, once I got involved there, it became obvious to me that we were getting far more requests for funds than we were getting in donations. So we were looking around for a way to raise some more money, and we came up with the idea of forming a foundation which would enable us to apply for grants and also for a casino license. So. Working with Sherry and the other, we came up, drafted the bylaws and went through the various committees at City Hall, and finally got approval from the council to proceed with this, and that's basically how it got off the ground. But
okay, so you mentioned casinos.
correct.
You were involved with that.
Still am. I'm still the casino chairman for the advisory committee to this day.
I know, because you've asked me to work. So what stands out for you in serving on the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee and the foundation?
Well, we've had some interesting things happen over the years. We've been through a number of floods down there, and the foundation has raised well over $200,000 for the foundation, which has all gone back into either Viner Center or Strathcona Center or the various clubs that are involved there. So.
You remained active with another activity that began through the Viner Center, even though it's no longer there, the income tax program.
Yes, I'm still doing income tax. Unfortunately, we had to move since there wasn't enough space for us at the Strathcona Center, so we joined the group that at the Mennonite church on Dunmore Road there, and there's I think 4 of the original group that were doing tax there that are involved up at the church there.
Well, I often see you at the Strathcona Center, and could you tell me what Strathcona and Viner Centers have meant to you?
It meant a lot to me. I get a lot of satisfaction of assisting other people, and it's given me an opportunity to do that. Also, it's enabling to have some socialization, particularly now since my wife is in long-term care. It's I go down there for lunch most days of the week, and there's a group of 5 or 6 of us that meet for lunch every day, and that's very enjoyable and satisfactory. Gives me much satisfaction.
Yeah. So, as you look back on your life so far, do you have a philosophy that you've lived by, or a few words to describe it?
Yeah, a couple things I live by. A service to others is the rent you pay for the space you occupy is one, and the other is do unto others as you would have others do unto you. This is sort of my philosophy.
Sounds excellent. So Doug, thank you very much for the contributions that you've made to the world at large, in particular to seniors, and for coming today to tell us about it.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this segment of our oral history project, where we interview inspirational seniors. These are individuals who have enriched the lives of other seniors through their passions and leadership. For more information about the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee or other seniors clubs, please contact the Viner Center.